This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening. We're going to start October 30th commission meeting with a public hearing of our first reading of Ordinance 609-2024, an ordinance updating the town floodplain ordinance as to be compliant with state requirements, which is the result of FEMA updating their floodplain maps. Online with us is our floodplain engineer, Kevin from Great West Engineering. He will present the ordinance and staff report for us this evening. Kevin, can you hear me?
I can. Give me 1 second. My computer's being slow. I will have the ordinance up in one real quickly. All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll just go ahead and present the staff report and read it into the record here for everybody that's in the room. So for the general information, in April of 2024, the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, DNRC, published updated model floodplain regulations for the state of Montana. This update replaces the previous model regulations that the DNRC made available to the public in 2022. Communities throughout Montana that participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, the NFIP, such as the town of Ennis, are required by state statute, section 76-5-301, to adopt land use regulations for floodplain management that meet or exceed the minimum standards set forth by the state of Montana within 6 months of a state or federal revision. The following list below are additional higher standards the DNRC has proposed in the model regulations. And I'm not sure if I can share my screen or not, put it on there. But I will go ahead and Mayor, do you have a copy of the staff report for in person?
No, but I can make one.
I can read the reason I'm asking is I can read all of the higher standards into the record here if you would like, or if you have a hard copy in there, we could just put it onto the record as well. So I'll do whichever way you prefer.
I think it's best that the increase be, if you would read those so that they're aware that it may be an option later.
Okay. Sounds great. So out of the model regulations, section 6.1 of the floodway, higher standard that was added by the DNRC is cemeteries, mausoleums, or any other burial ground are prohibited in the floodway. Section 6.2 flood fringe, the construction or storage of an artificial obstruction subject to flotation or movement during flood level periods is prohibited in the flood fringe. Section 6.2, flood fringe cemeteries, mausoleums, or any other burial grounds are prohibited in the flood fringe. Section 6.2, flood fringe, critical facilities, including buildings and associated structures that provide essential community care and emergency operation functions such as schools, hospitals, nursing home facilities, fire stations, and police stations are prohibited in the flood fringe. Section 9.2, subsection 3(9), general development requirements in the floodway. The safety of access to property in times of flooding for ordinary and emergency services from Code of Federal Regulations, section 44, 60.2.22, subsection C7, shall be required for a floodplain application permit. Section 9.10, public and private campgrounds. There is no large-scale clearing of riparian vegetation within 50 feet of the mean annual high water mark. Section 9.11, structures accessory or appurtenant. There is no clearing of riparian vegetation within 50 feet of the mean annual high water mark. Section 10.2, subsection 8, access. Structures must have safe access during times of flooding up to the base flood for ordinary and emergency services, provided there are no reasonable alternate locations for structures. Section 10.2, subsection 13, structural fill flood proofing. The fill must be a minimum of half a foot above the base flood elevation and extend at least 15 feet beyond the structure in all directions. Section 10.2, subsection 19, access. Access for emergency vehicles is provided. For manufactured homes, access for a manufactured home hauler is also provided. Section 14.2, subsection 3, notice to enter and investigate lands or waters. If the owners do not respond, cannot be located, or refuse entry to the floodplain administrator, the floodplain administrator may initiate a search warrant. Those are the higher standards that the DNRC provided in this update, and included as an attachment to the staff report is a copy of the 2024 model regulations with the updates and edits to the 2022 version. And the edits are shown in either blue or red text, depending on how it is displayed. Madison County has recently undergone a Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, floodplain mapping update, which included the town of Ennis. The updated regulations are required by the DNRC and FEMA to be fully adopted prior to the date that the new flood insurance rate maps, or FIRMs, go into effect, which is December 20th, 2024. Our recommendation, Great West Engineering, acting as the town of Ennis contract floodplain administrator, recommends to the town commission that the DNRC model regulations be adopted without the DNRC's proposed higher standards. And attachments to this report were the 3 different FEMA firm panels, the town of Ennis proposed floodplain ordinance, and the DNRC model regulations that display the track changes. And as some of you might know, right now we're kind of in a little bit of a time crunch, since we do have to get the regulations fully approved by the 20th of December in order to stay in compliance with FEMA. If they are not adopted by that date, then we potentially run into the issue of the town being put onto probation by FEMA, which then puts all of the active National Flood Insurance Program insurance policies in jeopardy. So, and that is the staff report. So thank you, Mayor Haas. I don't know if you want me to go through the entire regulations. I don't find that completely necessary for right now, but I'm here to answer questions if they come up.
Perfect. I don't think we have to go through the whole 61 pages of awesomeness. But if there are questions now for Kevin, it would be great time to address those in the first public hearing. Again, the higher standards that he read are not, those were recommendations that are not in this document at this time. If the commission chooses, they may seek for higher standards later, but a similar has already been approved from by FEMA, but from Madison County, correct? And so we stayed in line with their already approved from FEMA document. So I'll say the first call for public comment on public hearing item of the first reading of ordinance 609, 2024.
Karen, catch you. I just wondered the higher standards. Is this a blanket recommendation to all communities, or is it Madison County specific?
Ms. Mayor, if I may, these model regulations are proposed for the entire state of Montana. All NFIP participating communities are required to adopt these updated regulations. Whether or not higher standards are approved by the communities kind of depends on each individual community.
Thank you. All right, second call for public comment on first reading of ordinance 609, 2024. Last call for public comment on the first reading of ordinance 609, 2024. All right, Commission, would you like to make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 609?
I move for the record to approve the first reading of ordinance 609-2024.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing no discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Kevin. We'll see you again on November 14th for the second reading.
All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening.
And we will add his staff report to tonight's meeting minutes and also put it in the drive for the second hearing as well. All right, let's open the meeting of October 30th with a roll call of council. Commissioner Way
Here.
and Commissioner Hardy.
Here.
All right, if we could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to make a motion to switch up the agenda order and move C up to the top of scheduled matters.
Okay, you can make that motion. Isn't that a second?
Second.
Discussion? All right, calling the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So we are going to move to the appointment of the one-year commission seat for a discussion and vote. There has been one letter of interest submitted to the town of Ennis for the vacant commission seats. This is a one-year term that will be ending in December of 2024. So, Ms. Abernathy, would you like to step to the mic so the council may ask questions?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Mitchell Abernathy. I go by Mitch. I'm a local resident here in Ennis. I own a home in the town limits. I've been in Ennis for almost 5 years, and I'm a CPA locally and work in Bozeman. Questions?
Why are you interested in doing this?
Well, after all the turmoil that's happened in the last couple of months, as a CPA, I've dealt with quite a bit of adversity and business matters. And having a level head and being able to step back and take a look at the big picture is one of the things that I've acquired over my years in my career. And I feel like this town needs that at this point. It needs someone who can ask pertinent questions, get answers that the town needs, the public needs, in order to be on the council's side as far as passing all the regulations, laws, taxes that we need to do in order to keep the town running. And honestly, I feel like I can bring that to the council.
I guess speaking to your knowledge base, the last accountant I spoke with had, I mean, there's definitely there are two different types of accounting, I guess. A city does a
Governmental fund accounting, yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with that
It was
subject?
on the CPA exam, yes.
Okay.
On a daily basis, no, I don't deal with it, but I have studied it.
Yeah. So your son works for the town of Ennis?
No longer.
Oh.
Citizens, do you have questions of our candidate? All right, my question, as I'm consulting Montana Municipal Handbook, and this was the section in my training last night, how available are you for training?
My job affords me the availability to work in public government. It's actually in our handbook. So I have the availability, and I have 4 weeks of PTO, or December I'll have 5 weeks. So it's up to my personal availability at that point, which I'm a grandma. I don't watch my grandkids. My husband and I live alone. I just have 2 dogs that I have to let out every once in a while. So.
May I pose another question?
What's that?
Are you pose another question? All right. So Montana Code is the authorizing power to vest local government with legislative duties. What legislation would you propose that would promote public health security, public health, welfare, and safety?
As far as the town of Ennis?
Yes.
Well, currently I know as a whole, I feel that Ennis is fairly safe. The only issues that I see currently is our crosswalks on Main Street. Because of the parking situation, it's very hard to see when pedestrians are in the crosswalk. Those issues are the biggest safety hazard right now, other than our water issue. We're vastly unprepared for the population that we have, as I understand it. So water safety is also a concern. And as far as I understand it, the commission's been working on that topic for some time. If you're asking about a police force here, that is something that is a budget matter to me more than a safety matter, because I feel like the town of Ennis is very small. And we have the sheriff's department who patrols through here regularly. So we have options. I actually lived in a town. It's not even a town. It's a city of almost 300,000 people, and they don't have a police department. They rely on the sheriff. They do have a sheriff's substation. That's what I come from. It's a fiscal responsibility that I feel the council is responsible for. We're spending other people's money, and we need to be aware that a lot of the people who live in the town of Ennis are on a fixed income. So every time we levy taxes, we're putting more and more people into a hole they can't get out of. And it's to me, it's very close to my heart because I see the struggle. I assist people with their tax returns. I understand what they're going through, and it's very difficult. And for the town not to recognize what their population is and what the needs of the population is irresponsible, in my mind. So to summarize, it's a fiscal decision, not a personal safety decision, because we have the tools at hand.
Good.
I think that was everything for my last night's reading. All right,
Do we need a motion?
you need a motion.
All right. You want to do this one, Corey?
Sure. I move to nominate Miss Abernathy, Mrs. Abernathy to be on the town commission.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
Yeah, I say. No more discussion.
All right, calling the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Well, Mrs. Abernathy to the one-year term on the Ennis Town Commission. You will need to be sworn in, and that has to be then sent to Virginia City. So, that being said, it's not sealed without the clerk's seal.
Yeah, we did that with me, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. We swore you in the same night.
I'm not Ginger.
So it's because Ginger's not here that we can't do it? Well, that's a bummer.
We can still swear in and then send it. Can't send it stamped. Like, it's recorded.
I mean, that's the question. Can we put her to work?
Yeah.
He's not here.
Mm-mm. What? Mm-hmm. Can you see if you can find me a copy of it? It should be, there should be one in the drive, or it's in the book, the oath, isn't it?
I don't remember seeing it in the book.
Yeah, it's in the oath of office is in the book.
Oh, is it?
It's right there. And then we'll just have to print it and have you come back and sign it. And attest it under Ginger's. She will have to attest. But I think since there's video footage. Okay, we're gonna multitask this. Brenna, we always do this by the flag so they can take a picture of you at the same time. I found it. I found it in the book.
I found some old ones like Corey's.
We're sharing a mic. Yeah, because it does say, before entering upon the duties, you shall take the subscribed oath of office. All right, right hand. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Montana,
the Constitution of the State of Montana,
this charter,
this charter,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office.
and I will discharge the duties of my office.
You may say, so help me God, if you choose.
So help me God.
All right, congratulations. Oh, wait, does anybody want to take a cute picture? Did you get a good one? Okay.
That's close enough.
The Madisonian may be asking for that. So, John, you want to
Yeah, which way do you want me to go?
come? We'll rotate that one this way. If you started at the end, you gotta come this way.
I gotta go over there now.
Share a table. Grab one of those. All right. This is a little. Got that?
Looks like it's working.
All right. I'm gonna go grab you a town council code book real quick.
Okay.
Get you all the other stuff. Dress.
Sounds good.
You have 38 seconds to memorize.
I kind of like it over there better. I know. I like being able to watch it.
I could have sat over there. I could have sat over there.
Okay, this one is marked current 12 or 2/15 of 24. I think it actually has all its pages, no markings on it, so. So with that, welcome to the council. We will get you set up with your own email, a Chromebook to use, and after this week, I discovered that there's resources that are available to the council that they did not know that they had. So if you would like to sit down with me, I'm usually available Mondays, but I can flex and do whatever to get you to the links to the resources for MSU and get you on their
Okay.
listserv, and then those will come automatically to you from MMIA, MSU, Montana League of Cities. Great. And then all the others are kind of linked in there as well. All right. Next, back to scheduled matter A, town information technology budget item for discussion and vote. So this item was put on the budget after Commissioner Way and Commissioner Hardy both said that it needed to be reviewed before a budget could be adopted. I received those communications on October 22nd that they wanted a contract before it could go before, that they wanted a contract with DIS. So at that point, I said we probably need to actually look at all the information and go from there. In that search, multiple items have come to my attention, and that's probably due to the class that I am currently taking, in which the focus this week was on roles and responsibilities of the executive branch versus the legislative branch. So in that, it says there's a couple things that need to be addressed. Supervision is an executive branch item under Montana Code 73-213, which AI has no longer helped me with. But it says the supervision of personnel. The executive may appoint and remove all employees from local government, appoint and remove with the consent of a majority of the commission all employees of the local government, appoint with the consent of a majority of the commission all department heads and remove department heads, and may appoint and remove all other department employees. Appoint and remove with the consent of the majority of the commission all department heads, and appoint and remove all other employees of local government. So that is my executive power. There's not the same power given to the commission, and we have not defined department or personnel. So in that, in reference to our charter, 2-04, neither commission nor any of its members may dictate the appointment or removal of any employee whom the mayor or any of his horse subordinates empower to appoint. So, with that said, there's also section 1-7, number 14, under powers and duties of the mayor. The mayor shall appoint, suspend, and remove all employees of the town except as otherwise provided by the law, this charter, or ordinance. Employees appointed by the mayor and subordinates shall be administratively responsible to the mayor. So these questions were posed to the attorney as well. What defines a department in the town? Does it only what's in the book? Because the library's not in the book, but it's a department. Does it number of employees in that section? Because zoning is a department and in the book, but has one person. She's the department head and the department in and of itself. So these are the questions that I posed to Ed. What constitutes a department? I don't think these questions were appropriately addressed when the ambulance was abolished, and if it is a department, it must be done according to the charter. To abolish a department, you must go through public hearing. So Ed has asked for, how did it start? So that is, and he asked that question to me yesterday to make a more firm opinion on the matter. Is there a resolution that created it as a department? So I'm in the dig for that, because this seems like it was like 10 years ago. Or was this something that just like blossomed? So that is where I am at with that, along with the presentation of information of comparing the two.
resolution, then it got turned into a department.
Sorry, Mrs. Hankins, if you could please step to the mic so that you're,
Would it not be accurate that last year, or it used to be previously was a contract position, and then last year when I questioned why IT wage wasn't on the wage resolution, was it turned into a department then?
again, I was going to go look and see if there was a resolution for when it officially started and go from there.
So
If there was
isn't
not
a
if there was not a resolution as a department or a position, I do know that it is a position of the town because it has a, sorry, put all of my words together. It has a job description that was reviewed by MMIA.
When was the job
On
description?
what?
When was the job description created?
That's what I don't know. The last that I know, it was revised on 10 of 21 after review from MMIA. So it has been in existence for at least that long, the position. And in that position and its job descriptions, there are things that our current IT contract that we're looking at does not meet. DIS does not maintain two-way radios, including programming, accessories, radio, whatever. If we are going to do this, I would recommend that you would figure out, is it a position, a department? What is it? Because that's very close to the violation of the prohibitions if we're wrong. Secondly, can you find a company that meets the description, or do you need to update the description? I think that concludes my findings in it, other than actual.
Pushing me a shot. This is not a rockstar fantasy, are you? I am. The last time I knew how to dance.
Will you please mute?
So I'm sorry, are you asking for discussion on what you just
So
mentioned?
that is the findings that I have on the topic.
So I agree that the definition of a department needs to be agreed upon before you can move forward. Where we get that definition, I think we'd first look to the state, potentially, and then go from there. It's been in my experience, IT is a department, but that's in a profit-seeking business, not a government entity. So
I scavenged through the book again, not just ours, but this one, and it doesn't have IT listed as a department in some of them, but it says this is not an inclusive list.
I mean, we can do that if you want. We can update the list and all that, but I know I'm not ready to vote on any budget until we're done with that.
I agree with that. I also read the duties of the IT department. And I feel that some of those need to be revisited as well. Because I feel like some of those duties are not necessarily, I don't want to offend anybody, but a computer geek's job to do, such as updating your web page. That web page is, if it's, Google WooCommerce. Very easy to learn. It's very easy to do. It walks you through it. And I think honestly, the clerk should be in charge of that. Not an IT person, whoever it is. That's just my opinion though.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, has any of the commissioners gone with Eric or John and seen exactly what he does for every aspect of that position?
Who is that?
Can you state your name?
My name is Ennis.
So the question was, I couldn't hear it exactly.
I think she was asking if any of us have shadowed him to see what he does.
On which one of his jobs?
Yes. I'm assuming the
Chief of
IT.
police, the IT, or the school
Well, we're talking
officer?
about IT, so I'm asking about that.
So what hours of the week is that exactly?
My thoughts on the issue is that an IT, if we have a job description, we have a duty description. So I'm assuming that John was consulted in putting that job and duty description together. So the need for someone to shadow him and watch what he does is not necessary. He's written it down for us. Am I correct?
I
I
get
would think
a,
so. And he also provided, all the stuff that he has on that system. We
Mhm.
asked him for that several months ago.
If there, this comparison, it lists everything that he does, and I'm assuming he answered his side of it. The current IT as current IT.
correct.
So this would be everything that he would do in that position.
So this company that we have found does the IT for the sheriff's department. Who programs the two-way radios for the sheriff's department?
It's a different company.
So that would be a different additional cost.
Correct. And then Eric's support for,
How would it be lost?
We won't have any IT because they don't cover point-to-point communication.
Eric, if you could go to the mic, please, so
Yes,
that,
please.
sorry.
So we'll lose it all because they don't do point-to-point operations, which is the water tank. It's basically our SCADA system. It talks to each other. It tells which pump to run when, and
So yeah,
it sends me alarms.
Are we muted? We're not muted.
My mic's on.
Yeah, it's
I don't
on.
know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear anyone that's at the mic. Any of the chitter chatter that's not at the mic, we can't understand. But you're loud and clear, Eric.
Thank you, Brittany.
Okay. This one, go ahead.
I just need to ask a few clarifying questions. So when you say a point to point, so it's like a Wi-Fi repeater that's talking to.
Yes,
a
so,
server?
right. So the tank talks to our SCADA system and we get all the alerts. Low water tank, high level alarm. I get alerts if the heaters quit working, which is super important. I mean, if the heaters quit in the pump houses, that's a catastrophic event. all of Public Works, they don't do. So
So
that would have to be,
a separate topic.
we would definitely have to separate from the town at that point. Public Works and the town would definitely have to separate. And we pay $16,000 into this IT budget, water and sewer does. I mean, if you separate them, I think you should separate that money too.
Of course. I have a question though. So DIS is what the sheriff's department uses. Is there any other tech companies that any other local towns use for the same purpose?
Yes, there is another company. It is called First Call. It is what the city of Hamilton uses. And I don't have it with me.
Okay.
It's probably in there. But there was only two companies at the Montana League Conference in West Yellowstone that provide technical assistance, and that was DIS and First Call.
So can we reach out to First Call and see how different they are from DIS?
Yes.
Do we have time for that?
We have time.
I just think we just need to explore every avenue before we try to push something through that's not complete. And I don't want, like he said, I don't want any issues with anything that we've got running right now.
And that's my biggest thing. Like, you can't just do this and throw out more than half of the work that needs done by an IT person in this town. He and I
I
spend,
don't think that's the point. I think the point is that we're trying to be fiscally responsible, and that's going to be my mantra, fiscally responsible to the taxpayers of this town.
well,
And
it's,
in investigating other avenues of providing the service that might be cheaper or the
I'm
equivalent.
trying to agree with you. Like,
Good.
look at a different company, because this one isn't doing what this town needs.
Yeah, I see a lot of no's.
If you're gonna do this, what you're gonna do, we all know it, that's fine. But try and find something that's gonna work for everybody. Or separate the two and do it both.
Yeah, so the page I'm looking at is the current IT versus the DIS comparison that was put together, I'm assuming by Ginger or yourself.
John and
Yeah.
I put that one together.
There's a lot of no's on here for DIS.
That they are not capable of doing.
Yeah.
The other part that I highlighted or wanted to investigate was you weren't here. Corey and I discussed DIS at a meeting in which we didn't have a quorum, and they travel from Billings.
Yeah.
So the rate of travel is at $150 an hour, is what Corey.
In addition to the 295 site visit.
Correct. So that is the answer to that. I should have updated that it is at $150 an hour. So anything that is highlighted could possibly require an on-site visit of one-way trip at $450 an hour, or $450 one way for the trip for the drive time. But I'm also going through all the old IT to see how many of those were on, like, in the last year. How many hours were required for on-site that couldn't be done a remote. Does that make sense? When lightning hit, that was an on-site. That was two different occasions. One for not
Were Nikki
yes.
Hankins, for the record, were all those no's verified through DIS? Or were they just
Well, I was
assumed
about to
they were
ask
no?
that. Did
In
DIS
their-
make a site visit to give this quote to us, or is this something just?
No, these are just been online or back and forth. I think looking at just one option is not recommended. I know, like radio programming, we do it for our private company, and We spent, I think it was $2,000 to have 6 handhelds and 2 larger bases programmed out of a company from Kalispell. And the sheriff's system is updating their trunk system, so we will have to do a full radio reprogram this fiscal year.
Carla Smith, I have a question. Since we compare ourselves to other towns when it's relevant, what are other towns doing? Because I can't imagine other towns have their lone police officer being also their IT administrator, who also is the only person that knows how to work parts of their public works department. Like, what are other towns doing?
Stacey Rodriguez. Is there a purpose that as to why John needs all 3 jobs? IT, SRO, police department?
Well, I think the SRO falls under his general police duties. It's not separate. It's just we get reimbursed a little bit.
Is it too much for him to handle? Why not look at other IT options where he doesn't have access to other,
I do see a conflict of interest because he is also a town employee that has access to upper management email. That is an internal control issue.
It is. And, I think we're looking at the cash flow issues on a day-to-day basis, which are good, but I think we're ignoring the larger picture issues of, I've sat down in the last 2 weeks with the governor's office and the attorney general's office about this exact issue. And both of them say the chief of police cannot be the IT director and share. In an open meeting, it was proven that the chief of police took a commissioner's email and forwarded that to our city attorney. And even if that's, not against the law, the stench of it is really bad. And
So,
just because of that, I mean, both people I've consulted in Helena have said, this cannot go on.
may I make the recommendation then that the council simply update the policy so that IT's position does not require being the email administrator? And if you would like to have a social media policy in which anything that goes out on any form of town letterhead, email, I mean, maybe however you want to say it, has to be approved by commission chair and mayor. It's very simple. It doesn't violate a quorum. You just bring it ahead. That's what it is, but that's what I would do. It then doesn't get rid of the needs there. It then satisfies the concern of email. You just choose somebody else to be the Google email administrator. Whoa.
And I think public comments need to be read too that were issued. Carla Smith, Town of Ennis taxpayer. I would like to express my support for the commissioners to utilize an outside IT firm. Doing so eliminates any conflicts of interest as well as takes a responsibility off the plate of our sole police officer and acting SRO. It is my understanding John is paid overtime hours to handle IT. Why is that even allowed? From previous posted documents, John seems to be overstressed and his ability to be productive and efficient seems to be hindered. By going with an outside firm, this would help alleviate some of this stress so that he could focus and be more productive on his role as our lone police officer and acting SRO. Public safety should be John's top priority, and if our one police officer is having to be an IT administrator, it would seem public safety isn't being put first, as he is having to help others in their departments do their jobs.
Alex Zippe, town resident. Mayor, with what you said with the removing the IT from being your email administrator, my only question would be if there was an issue with the email, where does that fall? Is that going to go back to your IT to fix, or is someone else on the commission or somewhere else within the town now going to have to be that IT person for that? It almost sounds like it's categorizing, if that makes sense.
My understanding is it would be a different department. I think that's what we're trying to get to. I think we're all in agreement. There is a perception of a conflict of interest here. And whether it is one or not, it's the perception. And in the accounting world, perception is everything. It'll ruin your reputation. But I don't think we need to move as quickly on this. I honestly believe we need to do some more research before we discuss this any further. We need to define what a department is. We need to define what a contract position is. There's a lot of back office work that I think we need to finish before we can go forward.
All right. I would like to, since these were submitted, read public comments. They were submitted throughout the day, and so you may not have seen all of them. They were dropped in the drive, some of them as late as 3 p.m. They were all received before 1 p.m. They were just to Ginger, and she is at the airport right now. So, as part of those public records, and they are this topic, that they should be read, as well as the other letters that were submitted as well. And then as part of the review, when we do it, I think we need to review not just what was budgeted, but what was actually spent in IT. While we budgeted, where is my sheet? Sorry, this was organized a little bit ago. Here's one more sheet. Okay. In 23-24, our budgeted amount for salaries and wages for IT was $11,850. That's for 1180 IT services. Salary and wages is 110. The actual was 6,486.
You're picking up 110 only, not compensated absence, which I'm assuming is vacation or sick pay.
That's correct. And so if you added even our projected at 985, that number has gone down already. It is not $985. It is less than that, as some was used last week.
Has the rest of the budget been looked at this detailed?
This was the topic to be discussed this evening, so I did an analysis.
Correct, but the budget has been overdue to accept for months. Have you looked at the rest of the budget to get that under control?
All right, I am going to read the letters from community members. Thank you. Dear Town Commissioners, my apologies for not being with you this evening. I am writing to encourage the town to consider contracting its IT services to an independent third-party firm. Many municipalities of our size and larger include various sheriff's offices have successfully outsourced their IT needs to specialized firms. This ensures professional management and reduces risk associated with relying on a single individual for critical operations. Currently, the town's IT duties have not been formalized into an official position, but rather the responsibilities were informally assumed by John Moore through his willingness to assist. While it may have been effective initially, there is now a clear lack of oversight and accountability. The town is essentially placing all its eggs in one basket, as there is no cross training or secondary individual who can step in if the current IT personnel is unavailable. This creates a significant vulnerability for the town's operations. Additionally, Ennis Police Department has cited an increase in call volume, yet our police officer is still tasked with IT duties. This diverts attention from where it is most needed, serving our community. It is imperative that our limited law enforcement resources focus on public safety rather than administrative tasks like IT. Another pressing concern is the restriction of commissioner access to Black Mountain, the town's bookkeeping software. For years, the IT personnel has denied commissioners liability to access to the software, citing security risks. However, Black Mountain's representatives have confirmed the secure access, including two-factor authentication, is entirely feasible. By limiting commissioner access, the town has hindered their ability to stay informed on budgetary matters and make timely decisions throughout the fiscal year. There are also serious ethical concerns to consider. During my time as commissioner, I experienced instances where it seemed my email correspondence was being monitored, though I could not prove it. Last year, Commissioner Hankins presented evidence that John Moore had read her email, whose sole recipient was the mayor, and forwarded it to a third party. To my knowledge, this breach of trust has not been properly addressed and raises significant ethical concerns about current IT structure. Lastly, the financial aspect cannot be ignored. While having current staff perform IT duties has often presented a more cost-effective option, the budget for IT service has increased fivefold over the past several years. While some increase is expected due to an adoption of new technology, recent estimates from third-party contractors suggest that in-house IT is no longer the most economical choice. In conclusion, outsourcing our IT to an independent firm would provide the town of Ennis with professional management, ensuring greater accountability, mitigate conflicts of interest, and likely save money in the long run. I strongly encourage commissioners to explore this option for the benefit of our town's operation and fiscal responsibility. Thank you for your consideration. Warm regards, Lisa Roberts, Town of Ennis resident, former Town of Ennis Commissioner. Comments regarding town information technology budget item. John doing IT was presented as a less expensive option in the past, and it seems that was not entirely accurate. It has been found that many towns and police departments contract out for IT. Having our police chief acting as our only law enforcement, serving the school under the liaison policy, and serving as a town IT administrator seems to be a lot for one person, not to mention it's handwritten, I can't read it, a conflict of interest. During the budget hearings, it seems like perfect time to make changes and outsource IT responsibilities to a company that services many municipalities and has experience of working with towns like Ennis. I'm in favor of having an independent IT company and believe it will benefit the town and dismiss any conflicts of interest. Oh, sorry. Sincerely, thank you, Tina Allison, former Town of Ennis Commissioner. To whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter to support the Town of Ennis to look into solutions that can better serve the town, citizens, and general functionality when it comes to the Ennis using one individual for IT services, chief of police, and school liaison. Each of these roles should be in place in any organization, but not occupied by one individual, as this causes a conflict of interest and is damaging. There are no checks and balances in these roles, departments, and leaves little no transparency and tax-supported agency. I believe that all employees should be required to perform the duties and activities of a single position with the highest level of integrity and independence in a professional and ethical manner. They must also ensure that they avoid or eliminate any conflict of interest or situation that could reasonably be perceived as a conflict of interest. And it is my opinion this is currently compromised by John Moore and the town of Ennis for allowing one employee to fulfill three positions and manage multiple budgets. Town government should be an example and adhere to the highest degree of policy and procedure and produce efficient and effective leadership in service of our citizens, business owners, students, and visitors. This will ensure safety and accountability for all. I would encourage the town commission and the mayor to pursue other alternatives to relieve John Moore of multiple positions so he can put his focus into one. This valley is rich in IT resources and has law enforcement support from Madison County Sheriff's Department, both of which are currently underutilized. This could also be cost-saving measure to taxpayers. Contracting with professional IT services, county law enforcement enables the town of Ennis to have more resources and services available to all. I am all for law enforcement support to our schools to provide protection and build relationships with our younger generation, but this is not reflective of the current situation. As the town and the county grows, we need to think forward and be ready for the future instead of always playing catch up. We can do better. We want to do better, so let's put an action to being our best. Just a thought, if John Moore were to step away from his employment duties, where would the town be in carrying out services of responsibility? How would we operate? It seems like a lot of eggs in one basket. Sincerely, Mother, children at Ennis School, employee in town limits, resident of Madison County. And the last one is good evening. I believe it's very beneficial for the community to dismantle the dynasty created for the chief of police, the SRO, and the IT department. After checking and evaluating DSI Technologies' proposed contract would be valuable asset to this community and discontinue the serious conflict of interest currently being utilized in the community. This would also free up time for the chief of police to maintain essential duties in the community that are currently being laxed for safety and traffic control. That being said, I would also request the town commission to reevaluate the proposed budget. Being a fixed income household with $40,000 per year income, I'm sure we're not the only family on fixed incomes, does not provide more room for taxes to go up. I surely pay school taxes amounting to over $200 a year plus town taxes of over $200 a year, so it's baffling that the school district is being let off with at best $13,000 a year. In my estimation, either one or the other must go up so the other can go down. I haven't found a money tree and would like to see any of you, mayor, town commission, to live on my household income. So I would certainly believe with better scrutiny of the proposed budget, there would be some cuts that wouldn't hurt any of the agencies involved to bring a balanced budget. Myron Walmo. Those are the letters in opposition. The staff also presented letters of support, as those are the users of the IT services the most. Those are also in the commission packet. They did not ask me to read them. Do you want me to read them? These were the staff that submitted. Dear Town of Ennis Commissioners, I am writing this to express my strong support for John Moore as the Town of Ennis's IT information technology help. John consistently demonstrates professionalism, kindness, and availability, making him an invaluable asset to our team. As Chief of Police, John holds himself to a high standard and is proactive in addressing technical challenges rather than simply reacting to them. His expertise with computers, phones, and printers ensures that we have reliable support whenever the issue arises. John's commitment to the security of the town's operations is evident, and he is well versed in Montana state law, which further enhances his ability to safeguard our community's interest. His presence in the office every day fosters a positive work environment, and he collaborates effectively with staff. One of John's most commendable qualities is his unbeatable response time. Having him on board greatly improves our efficiency and problem-solving capabilities. Thank you for considering my perspective on this matter, on this important decision. I firmly believe that John Moore is the right choice for our IT support. Sincerely, Brenna Bench, Deputy Clerk, Town of Ennis. I'm writing this letter to express to the council what getting rid of the current IT personnel will do to Public Works Department. Not might do, will be doing to this department. I will start off with the water tank. We will no longer have monitoring of the water tank level. This is how I get a call out if there is a main leak. So I will not have notice when the tank is draining at an alarming amount. So if the leak in the middle of the night, the tank will drain before it's noticed. Along with the tank, there's an underground vault that has to be heated. Otherwise, the main line will freeze in the winter. And I have a temp sensor in that vault that calls me when degrees gets to 55 degrees so I can prevent that. Next, the well houses. I will no longer have temp sensors in both pump houses. If those are not working, the main that is above ground, the well house piping will freeze, and if I don't get an alarm, call outs. We will have connection from the well house and water tanks that tells the pumps to kick on at a certain level of the water tank. This means we will have to run the pumps on manual. At that point, we will have to be awake 24 hours a day to make sure that the town water supply, that the fire suppression system needs to operate safely. We have to have so much water in the tank so the fire department can put fires they need to, and the pressure from the tank, not to mention the residents' needs. Next, we would lose the ability for the information to be sent from the tank to the wells, to the lift station, to the lagoon. Intake buildings and the effluent buildings, we have heat and door sensors in the lift station to make sure heaters are working. I'd hate to have the sewage freeze due to not knowing if the heaters were working at the lift station. We had to install a radio tower at the lift station for information to be sent back and forth between the lagoon and the rest of the system. This would not be something new. This would not be something the new IT would be a part of fixing or repairing. Onto the lagoon, we would not have the heat or door sensors lagoons, and I would not know when the power goes out at the lagoon. This appears to happen a lot due to birds nesting and flying into the lines. If something happens at the lagoon and the generators does not kick on, this would back up the sewer into houses and all into houses if the heaters quit working and don't get notification of the sewage pumps, risk freezing and causing huge problems. We have already done work upgrading the water meter. This will not help. John and I have done a lot of work on the system. To better the communication and upgrade the system, he knows all of the front and back. I could not even tell you how many times we've been working over the weekends on the water problems, and he's been there. I know the rest of the town doesn't work the weekends, but Public Works Department is always working. We do not stop because it's Saturday. We would no longer have that communication or help if I need an IT person. With that, with what you're wanting to do will force me to take the Public Works Department IT and separate it from the town of Ennis, and I hope I can find someone to help costs, and I hope I can find someone to help costing thousands. We are lucky to have an IT guy that knows when problems have happened, and most cases when I call him, he has already fixed the problem. He's always there for this department, and new IT company will not cover any of this and force the Public Works to work harder and be more costly to the town. I'm not trying to scare you, but the new IT company will not cover anything that has to do with Public Works. Nothing at all except my computer. This will be a huge blow to the department, and in fact, a crippling blow. Public Works pays into the budget and will not get anything out of it. The only thing this will do is move backwards. From Eric Olson. I think that's all the ones that I have. So I've read for and against. Karen.
I didn't, Karen, catch you. I didn't plan on speaking, so bear with me. So right now, library IT, with the exception of the Google emails and admin, are separate from the town. First, as you move forward and investigate options, I would encourage you to look at something together. It may be more cost effective. The history of why it's separate goes years and years back. I think it had to do with workload, John's workload at the time. So currently I perform the bulk of our IT. I'm trying to separate that from my job so that someone that knows more than me can provide security for lots of people who come in and use the library expecting privacy and security on their emails and on public computers. So the only part I want to comment on right here is the part about the portion of the IT admin's responsibility being the Google administrator for emails. Right now, the library is charged by the state of Montana, and it's written in MCA as far as records privacy. We call the people that come into the library and use them patrons. So that's where that comes from. We are charged with protecting their privacy to our utmost ability. Right now, I have a trust issue. So let me also say before I continue that I don't speak up very often because I'm hesitant. Employee complaints seem to flow freely around here, and I'd rather just do my job. But this part is protecting patron privacy is very important to me. People expect that. So on my email, people send me sensitive information, and it's a matter of trust, whether that information is accessible or not. So where my trust issue is knowing that an IT admin has sent other employees information for either professional or personal gain, knowing that that person can access residents' private information concerns me. And that's where I think it would be beneficial to see that part of the IT change. I don't know enough about the rest of what happens here to comment on that, but I'm requesting that that be looked at really closely. Thank you.
Nicole Hankins, previous town commissioner. I urge the commission to contract the IT position out to DIS Technologies for the good of the taxpayers. The current IT administration has his hands full with a full-time job and shouldn't have time to dedicate to IT, not to mention at an overtime wage. In November 2023, I made a comment about an email I sent to the mayor and Ginger to gather information about the sheriff's MOU. To my surprise, the town attorney at the time, Greenbaum, replied to my inquiries. It wouldn't have been a surprise had proper protocol been followed to access the email, but Attorney Greenbaum confirmed that the IT administrator brought it to his attention. It also seems odd when reviewing some previous commission meetings on YouTube, there are certain sections that seem to be edited and inaudible, which is also in the current duties of the IT. Of course, sometime after the meetings, Greenbaum and IT administrator seemed to get their story straight and said that Ginger had printed out the email and was laying on her desk. Just one more lie trying to cover up the truth, just like he wasn't working under the current SRO MOU, but the school liaison policy. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Michael Abernethy, town resident. Yes, Mrs. I would just comment, wisdom is perspective. So looking at everyone's perspectives is good. And as I was listening to Eric's letter, what began to stand out to me is we have one individual in this town that if he gets hit by a bus, he goes on vacation, he gets sick, our public works is at risk. And the technology side of that becomes at risk because from what I heard in Eric's letter is John is integral in making sure all of that runs. So we have one person that's integral. That's not good. For me as a citizen, that's not good. If you have a company that's doing it, if we can find one and it's affordable, then you aren't worried about one individual not being available or something happening, or he takes a job somewhere else and leaves. then where are we as a town? That one key person is gone. I think that is something that should be taken into consideration among everything else that's been discussed. Thank you.
I think that is something that we need to look at in multiple positions.
Agreed.
If Karen left her position, could Bailey magically step into it? If Eric left his, is the next person?
Well, that should be the responsibility of the department heads, is to, you hire people who are better than you and train them so you could walk away.
The principle of cross-training, yes.
But that's,
and
it's
great management.
one of the audit findings is the same thing. And it's in a lot of towns that have, because your biggest expense in payroll is typically staff. I mean, whether it's a business or here, and then you don't want to add more staff, but then cross-training them. It's a delicate balance.
We have a hard time finding people to fill positions. I mean, we had a position in the town hall empty for months. Yeah, it is a concern. And it's a good policy.
It's also mandatory according to Montana Code annotated for cross training.
All right. So I think I've heard a bunch of things here, and I think I've come to a couple of conclusions that are, number one, our IT load is more complex and heavier than just the standard running of this building's IT. The stuff with Eric, I mean, I don't even know what he's talking about. That stuff we need to solve that issue so that doesn't go away. I also agree that if John Moore got hit by a bus tomorrow, Eric would be in trouble the next day. And so we have to fix that. But I also feel that our chief of police, with this big IT department, what you've proven to me is that our IT is bigger than what we thought it was. So how is our chief of police doing it? Doing the IT satisfactory or great, according to all of our employees, and being the chief of police at the same time, and being our sole law enforcement officer. And then, I think back to a couple of meetings ago where it was documented in our packet that he was overwhelmed and all that. Is that negligent on our part for piling too much on Mr. Moore? Being the chief of police, being the SRO, being the IT director, is that negligent on the town's part for piling all that on him to where success is unachievable?
I think that's a question you would actually have to ask him, what that overwhelmed feeling comes from.
Wait, she getting serious? I thought. Did you know?
I'm as shocked as you are.
So this tin pot general's about to hire us to trade half his army.
But I think the primary concern is I don't know that it's back to the original part. I think there's a lot of liability and violations.
Mm-hmm.
That the unknown there is.
So we have, I guess this is just my overall perspective on all of this. You look at like a town the size of Polaris that has an individual there that I refer to as 10 hats. I don't know what his actual name is. This guy does 10 different jobs, everything from cleaning swimming pools to running ski lifts to teaching at the school in Polaris. Here we are, we're now only short 2 positions as of tonight here for town council. I don't think it's, I guess, ridiculous to think that individuals will have multiple jobs within a small town. I think hearing Karen say that, I mean, she has received her own, I guess, for the library, an estimate from DIS. So here we are, the town's getting an estimate from DIS. The library's getting an estimate from DIS. It sounds like we need additional services for public works. So I mean, are we going to have to hire a third company to take care of all of this stuff, or sign a third contract to facilitate all of this? I think one item that comes to mind as well is that we haven't had John Moore here in this room to have the discussion when we're all talking about how we're going to come up with a solution for all of this, because he would have had numerous rebuttals like, hey, no, DIS is not going to be able to do this. We've had to have Eric bring this to our attention, and I think that was sent out on the 28th. So yeah, ultimately we need to define all of these IT needs, and then whether we put that up for bids to one company, or what does that look like? It doesn't sound like a company traveling from Billings to come take care of business is a viable item, or a viable solution to take care of all of Eric's needs. So yeah, it sounds like we need to do a lot of defining and request.
It might be
for
worth
bid.
looking into a consultant to help us understand what the exact needs are, or without spending money. When we quote something out like this, we have a representative from the company that we're trying to get a quote from come and actually interview Eric, interview Karen, interview, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, Brenna. Close, I was close. To see what the actual needs are.
Multiple companies.
Multiple, yes. And they need, I think, honestly, as far as Eric's needs are concerned, somebody needs to come out here and look at it so they understand exactly.
Can online make a comment in regards to this?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Abernathy was in the middle of speaking, and as soon as she's done, you may.
I just think a hands-on approach is, you would get a better result than talking to somebody on the phone. Because the biggest mistake we could make is talking to somebody on the phone and they go, oh yeah, I understand that system. And then when they get out here, they don't know anything about it. That's a real concern, especially with Eric's department.
That's what we have right now.
I know, yes.
From online comment.
Yeah. So, hey, this is Alex, the Baytown resident. Sorry, I had to jet out of there. But I did have a comment as a former employee working for the Public Works Department. When it comes to regards to SCADA, I do believe there is assistance that is offered to the towns. I'm sure someone in the rural water or DEQ could come out to help to get Public Works Department more set up with the SCADA to be able to handle it more within that department and not needing the outside of the IT to keep it in-house, if that makes sense.
That could be a good resource. DEQ.
I would go with Montana Rural Water.
Yeah.
They're just they go to all the Montana rural places and see all their systems, so they would probably be the most knowledgeable about.
That's true.
DEQ is regulation,
It
not.
would be free, right? As a cost.
DEQ, sorry to interrupt, but DEQ does have some people that are there solely to set up for the for the SCADAs. They have people that have done it for years. There's a couple contacts that I met at a function for the town that's all they've done all their life is they do the SCADA, they handle wastewater, drinking water, and they know those systems in and out, and they offer that off to the side to train people on how to use, troubleshoot, and repair their SCADAs.
All right, thank you. So we did that completely. I did that completely wrong and said, because there was never a motion on the floor. Kind of went into a presentation and then didn't ask for a motion. I'm sorry. So, as to it posted as an agenda, how would you like to proceed, Commission? With a motion or a tabled or a...
As to the matter of the town information technology budget item, I move that we table it until we have more information.
I'll second that.
Do we need to have more discussion? Sorry, reversed. All right. Well, I guess you get a... We'll start... We're out of order because it's... Actually, no.
It doesn't really matter.
For tabling.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I will get you the contact information from the other, and I think it's best to start with an on-site visit from the two while still investigating with Ed the validity of a department versus position and how that all works. Does that sound like the game plan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, resolution 607, 2024, a resolution of the town of Ennis Commission adopting and establishing the mills to be levied for the budget fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Would we need to do that to do a continuance? Is that?
I think we should vote on it. I think we ought to make a motion.
I will say that Montana Code 7-64003 requires that a budget be adopted no later than October 1st. And in not adopting a budget, you are then not eligible for grants. So while we paid Great West $14,000 in a contract to apply for the CDBG to the tune of $750,000 to reduce the water rates by, I think it's $9, and getting that grant, we are not eligible for that grant if we do not adopt a budget. Budget may be amended. 7-64003.
I move we accept the resolution 607-2024.
All right, I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Public comment on resolution 607, 2024.
Nikki Hankins. When you introed the previous agenda item, you referenced how you weren't actually ready to vote on this. That would be you failing to properly put on the agenda what needed to be on the agenda. Also, if you're going to put a fine-tooth comb to your IT department, why haven't you done that with the rest of the budget and have it ready for their approval a month ago when it was due? Or even tonight when it's still due?
If a majority of the commission asks for an item to be on the agenda, it is the law that it be on the agenda.
May I speak? Nikki, in response to your comment, I understand your frustration. The budget item regarding the technology, we have a budget set for that. It's stated in the budget, and as the mayor has notated, we can amend the budget later. But for us to lose a $750,000 grant over $5,000 does not make sense for the town. That's my personal opinion.
I would just urge you to keep that in mind because this has been brought up before and then it gets dropped.
Yes, understood and appreciated.
Second call for public comment on Resolution 607, 2024.
Nikki, can you clarify? You said the budget, this is Brittany Hirsch, the budget was due October 1st. And
Correct.
we're past that. So did the town already forfeit the grant, or what's the deadline for forfeiting the grant that you're mentioning? I would like clarification on that threat. It sounded like a threat, so I'm not sure what the details are. Thank you.
Sorry if it sounded like a threat. When I spoke with Craig Erickson, when he applied for when he is the one that put together the CDBG from Great West, he asked if the budget had been adopted. He said most likely in the process, what happens is it automatically sifts it to the not probably going to happen pile. When the committee sits down to review, that has not been adopted at that time at committee review, then it's most likely just sifted out or sifted to the not priority pile. That is my understanding from Craig Erickson.
Okay, but there's no date on that committee review yet.
They have not met yet.
Okay, thank you.
So Carla Smith, I was just going to ask that too. If October 1st was the deadline, then we've already passed that. But also, we still don't have an MOU with the Sheriff's Department. We still don't have an agreement with the school for the SRO. And now we have IT. So what's the point in spending these crazy amount of hours working on a budget if you're just going to essentially approve it and not make any changes? And isn't there still a large deficit?
Brittany Hirsch, one more time. I would like to add that a month or more ago, it's hard to keep track of time. There's been so many meetings. I believe in the budget still remains 300 plus hours of compensated absences for the clerk treasurer, Ginger Gwynn, that is illegal against Montana code annotated and the town of Ennis policy. She should not have 780 hours. She should be capped at 380. I believe she has over 700. And if that's part of the budget, I believe it should be made with an amendment tonight. If you commissioners choose to pass that gets fixed immediately. It's not taking hours away from her. She shouldn't have earned them because the cap is 380 with her 20 plus years of service. Thank you.
All right. Last call for public comment on Resolution 607, 2024. I'd say commission discussion, but it looks like there's some thought processes gathering at the moment.
No, I'm good. I'm just
okay.
Down our return.
Well, in light of Brittany's comment on the time off cap, is the 780 hours compensation accrued in this budget?
Yes.
So.
Can we amend the budget into compliance?
I don't think so. I think you have to adopt it as a whole. Do amendments later.
This is Tanya Gustafson online. Could I add a comment?
Oh,
Absolutely.
oh, yes, please.
Thank you all. Well, I know that there's a lot of technicalities to the budget. I do want to, I guess, out of fear, uh, highlight Craig Erickson's comments regarding the CDBG grant. While I believe the budget should be passed and there's a lot of things that need to be looked at, the CDBG grants are extremely competitive. And while maybe on a technicality, we would not be looked at, we would not be taken out of consideration for the town not having a budget, it is something that, according to Craig, they might choose to pass on. And I just wanted to highlight that one more time. I know it's very inconvenient, but I can attest to the fact that these grants are extremely competitive, and we don't want anything to knock us out that doesn't seem, to matter.
While under Carla Smith, Tanya, I understand that, and I understand what the mayor's saying about these grants. If this was such an important date, why do we still have a budget that hasn't had any changes made to it, and there's still not any efforts being made to make changes to the budget? If October 1st was such an important date, and all these grants were going to be based on this important October 1st date, why hasn't the budget been changed?
Okay, as part of the discussion, we have changed it multiple times. At first, we were not sure on expenditures versus revenues versus total cash. You asked to see, John Way specifically asked to see other towns that had their long sheets besides just Sheridan and Twin Bridges, other towns that operated in the same functionality. That was provided. And at that moment, I was told I would feel comfortable adopting the budget if I saw this, this, and this. I provided that information. Every time I provide information, I feel at this point, the finish line gets moved. So there are two copies, one with Officer Moore as IT in case that was the holdup, and DIS, and you could say this is the budget. We're going with this one. Option number 2. It's not a resistance. I'm giving you your options. I got to know what they are ahead of time. And again, Montana code says that 7764003 says that it was, I didn't know that October 1st. I knew that there was the deadline. I should have looked into it. Ed Guza pointed that one out to me. He said, at that point, one department's item should not uphold the budget. It is a violation of Montana code.
I just want to stay, the public is obviously frustrated with the budget process. All I can say is the past is in the past. We can't do anything about the past. October 1st is past. And we're doing, I think the group is doing the best. This is my first night, so I can't say I've done anything, but I think the group has worked very, very hard to try to get a grasp of what is going on. There's been a lot of changes on the board. There's been a lot of drama going on within the town itself that has put this on a back burner. All I can say is we will try to do better, and we have to do better. And when our voting constituents are out there screaming at us to get our job done, it doesn't behoove us not to get our job done. And I don't think any of you guys did it on purpose. I think it's just something that happened. It does happen. I mean, I've been paying bills since I was 16 years old, and every once in a while I miss one. It happens. We're human. But I think we just look forward and keep in mind all the issues that we've discussed about the budget. But again, the grant at this point is much more important than these $12 or $15 or $20,000 changes that we're looking at currently. And yes, I see there is an almost $1 million deficit. But again, this is a budget, it's not actual. And it's supposed to be a guideline. And if the town council works very hard, we can keep those expenses down and not nearly have that kind of a deficit.
But last year's actuals were 1,846,466.
And it almost doubled, yes.
And it almost doubled.
I know. I saw that. I did see that. So I honestly think there's issues with budget preparation. I think there's not clear communication between the departments, what needs and what are needs and what are wants, and what are plans for 2 or 3 years from now. And that, you know, that type of a 2 or 3 years from now should not be in your current year budget. It should be in your capital improvements budget. So I honestly think it's just a miscommunication on the wants and needs of each of the departments, honestly. That's my gut feeling, my heart feeling. I don't think anybody's trying to take the town for a ride. I think it's just misunderstanding of what it was expected in the budget.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you look at those other towns that Ginger sent me, they are in the hole. They budgeting overspend by 20 to 30%, but not 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
my calculations was, where'd it go?
And by approving this budget, you're essentially authorizing them to blow through it all.
And you know, the federal government runs a deficit budget of 7%. That's only got us in $10 trillion worth of debt.
Yeah, we're over 134%.
Did you ask for it to be brought into 10% over last year's budget?
You must speak at the mic, please.
Yeah.
Randy Palmerton. John Way, did you or did you not ask for the mayor to bring the budget within 10% over of last year's budget?
I asked to see those numbers, yes. Take actuals and go, I think I said 10%.
Yes, you did.
I think I did, yeah.
And I think it's for checks and balances reasons. Then, yeah.
And that was provided and changed. I did 3% over on all of water and sewer in one version. An expectation is really hard to meet when I don't know what the expectation is. And when it changes from meeting to meeting every time it changes, I've adapted, I've provided new numbers. We took out paving projects, we did water and sewer closer to an actual. We've done, and again, the 3% over actual is, over last year's actual is probably not the best way to do that. You have to look at averages because things happen downtown and those mess up all of it. But that's, I don't know.
So I did send out an email to Darla Erickson,
Did you?
who
Okay.
you provided us with contact information to actually give an actual 100% explanation of why all of these municipalities are have similar excessive deficits. And when I say excessive, I mean that from a business standpoint. And I know we are not running business here, but back to authorizing these individuals to spend potentially this much money, I mean, I don't know. I just want that. She did not get back to me. I just sent the email yesterday. But yeah, ultimately would love an actual true explanation of why and how. I know we have a town with failing infrastructure. It's not that Eric's going to have to call us all up in the middle of the night and we're going to have this emergency meeting and he can't spend monies. He will start the process of fixing the water towers emptying out. Yeah, we're gonna call people to come and fix stuff. We're not gonna wait until the water tower's empty. So yeah, so I don't know. I guess as far as moving forward, I'm super excited to have Mrs. Did I say that right? Abernathy on board. And I mean, because years ago, yeah, we had a finance committee, and I like to be able to talk to the experts, I guess, even talking with the auditors, or I'm sure she could speak from experience. Her clients probably expect to talk to her before. Don't just send a check in and facilitate. Yep, these are my taxes. They get explained. So.
So I think what the thing is there's a motion and a second on the table. We can approve the budget as is with 2 out of 3 yes votes of commissioners. What that'll do would be to approve the budget. We'd have to make budget amendments down the road for everything from IT to SRO to, there was something else, I can't remember.
MOU, sheriffs.
Yeah, any MOU.
Compensated absences.
That thing's freaking me out.
Wow.
It's really loud.
And, or, yeah. And we could be in a better position for this, the grants, number one, that the town has put up, and the hospital for their infrastructure consultant, and our CDBG grant, what that was for.
That is the $750,000 towards the water system.
Mhm.
And with everything going at legislation this year, our MSEP grants will be there as well, and our DNRC loans and everything else. So.
Yep. So that's the question.
And and the other concern is, the public at large that have spoken tonight with concern about the budget and us passing it and forgetting it.
Mhm.
So I think we need to add an agenda item to our agenda going forward with unfinished business and keep it going until we've satisfied ourselves we've done the best we can on the budget. If we do that, next year's budget might be easier. We get expectations under control and presentation it'll be a lot easier. I'm all for efficiency and Sally, same as last year. It's called Sally. Same as last year, meaning the process is the same as last year. It's a set in stone process that we go through, and it's so you know the expectations of the council, so you can get your job done, and then when it comes to us, it's a lot less painful. So, if we can all agree to add an agenda item for unfinished business going forward, I'm
for agenda.
and just an agenda line for unfinished business from the prior meeting.
Yeah.
For anything like tonight, we didn't finish the IT. Like tonight, we didn't. We've got all these questions from the public asking us to check into these things. I want to assure them that we're not going to forget them. So an unfinished business list would help us check those off. Okay.
Sheriff MOU was supposed to be on every agenda, and that hasn't happened.
All the regular scheduled.
That's how it falls through the cracks because you don't have an old business agenda item. Yes.
So make sure you're checking every agenda.
The regularly scheduled meeting, the second Thursday of every month, has had the sheriff's MOU on it.
Yeah, not on this one because this isn't a regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, this
Correct.
is
That's
not a
what I thought.
regular meeting.
Yep.
Yes, we're on every meeting agenda.
Call the question.
Yes.
All right, you're up.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries for the budget to be adopted. Resolution 607, 2024. The staff appreciates getting to have their 3% cost of living increase because that has not been issued to them. So it will be retroed starting July 1st. All right, public comment on non-agenda items. So as part of a budget there's a cost of living increase that is calculated at 3% a year. And that is not issued until the budget is adopted. So the staff since July 1st are still working under the 2023-2024 rate. And
That's
so
a
that back pay
standard
will be
cost of
paid.
living increase.
Yeah. All right, public comment on non-agenda items. First call. Second call for public comment on non-agenda.
I would like to interject, this is Myron Walmo. I'd like to interject that the Social Security cost of living increase is 2.5%, but you're going for a cost of living of 3%. That makes it kind of a non-issue as far as us poor taxpayers go, because you're going way above our cost effectiveness. Thank you.
All right, last call for public comment on non-agenda items. All right, unscheduled. So our next meeting is November 14th. Oh, no, wait. Because we have to do another appointment before then, I think.
Do we have an applicant?
No.
Oh. Well, if
Well, there was one. There was one that I received today. I have to say that. But I literally read it on my way in, and I found it to be. I have to read it and make sure that we're compliant with the requirements of the seat. Does that make sense? Well, I have to contact this person and say, like, do you live? Because the address is given as
A P.O. box.
No, as an address from Maine. So.
From Maine?
Maine.
Yes. Town commission application, P.O. Box, Plymouth. No, Massachusetts. Sorry, MA is Massachusetts.
Same difference.
Who is it?
It is a Jim. No.
That would be awesome.
Excuse me while I'm speaking. It is Jim, Nihan. So that I received today, 4 hours ago at 3:28. But again, I need to verify that they meet the requirements, or I just opened that and was like, that is a P.O. Box in Plymouth, not Montana. So I have to verify, and maybe that's an old tag that they put on their email or something. So check residency, time of residency. So November 14th, second public hearing for floodplain.
And then you said that's also our regularly scheduled meeting is the 14th.
November 14th.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
If you need to get a hold of me, my regular hours for my Monday, I will not be in the office on Monday, this upcoming Monday. I will be taking my kiddo to Billings. So I won't be here, but if you need something, I can readjust and do a Friday or whatever. So I'll have to get with you and schedule and get you some information. And then the Monday after that, town hall is closed for a holiday.
Yeah. Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
Yeah, you're right.
One of the holidays I get.
Yeah.
On unscheduled matters, if there is no objection, I would like to add, we need to address the public on the filming.
What's that?
The filming process, because I forwarded you guys so
I
that
saw
you were
that.
aware of that, because I asked Corey if he was getting any of them. So I received, I don't know how many I sent you.
6 or 8 or
6 or 8 emails from concerned citizens regarding the filming that occurred in town. That is the only permit that company has put in. But I think we should actually address it as a matter
Of continuance? You meaning they might come back?
No, they
are not coming.
They were issued a user agreement and special use permit for the dates that occurred. But it has definitely received a lot of email and 5 phone calls in my voicemail today. So
In opposition of that type of activity. I know it changed 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Yeah.
The user agreement was changed for the correct dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we did that with the farmers market when there was the debacle downtown and they didn't have the parking lot. We changed the permit date and reissued it.
So, 2 things. Number one, if they're truly done, if this was a one-shot deal, then it's not that big a deal, right? Because yeah, there's a bunch of complaints, but it's over and done. We're never going to see him again. Goodbye.
Are we?
But
that's my concern.
But if it's not a one-shot deal, then
I think it's time for like a proactive approach to it rather than a reactive. I did not get those emails until they were done filming. That's literally after they were done filming. That's when I started to receive them. It is also highlighted that probably there's something we need to look at. I know in the Madisonian, the county was looking at a filming permit or something of such. So it might behoove us to like get with the county and be like, so what you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But you
would
and then
that
not
fall
violate
under our special events permit that we were talking about before?
something like that. So this is for an unscheduled. Do you see unscheduled?
Yeah. So on the filming thing, a couple things because I have some background in this. First of all, Paramount they're shooting up towards Three Forks this series. And if it picks up, they'll be shooting around, and they may very well come back. My expectation would be they would. I think it would be a very positive thing for the city to begin looking at something in the way of a film department. The city that I came from had one that grew up there, and it was close to LA, so they had, filming was in its background and its history, but the city made a lot of money. It was a good source of revenue, not only for the city through permitting process, but also for the businesses in that city, because typically when they came in, they were going to the hardware stores, they were buying stuff that they didn't have on their trucks, they were doing, people were going out to eat at restaurants, all kinds of stuff. So, it can be a very positive thing if you are managing it, if you're ready for it, and then communicating it. And I know Paramount did change, because I was in contact with them to try and get them into the Sportsman's for lodging if they needed it and a few other things. But in looking at it and talking to the location director for Paramount, it changed like 5 times. I mean, legitimately it changed, and film schedules will do that. It can be a very positive thing if it's handled right. And I know a lot of people in town don't want it, and don't want it to, they're afraid it's going to affect us. It can be a good source of revenue. I would just keep that in mind and explore some of that. And if people want to talk to me afterwards, they can, on some of that, but whatever.
Most of the complaints I heard was, we're going to be on TV, and now everybody and their brother's going to try to move to Ennis. And
Whatever
ruin our way of life.
it is,
I have
discussion, and I think it
online.
has to be on an actual agenda item. That's why I wanted to bring it there, because there was so much public comment to it. I think it's needs to be not a reactive, I'm sorry, I got these emails, I follow the policy, there's nothing in the policy or in any of our user agreements, and nothing in our town code book that prohibits me from saying you can't film here. So therefore I have to allow it as long as they meet the requirements of the permit and the safety, and then saying, I'm sorry, we cannot provide resources for traffic control. We don't have them, this, that, and the other. So that's where that has to, I think it should be a scheduled matter.
And then to caveat to that, Mayor Alex again from online, there's also been a couple of people in town have found $100 bills that say Paramount on them. They're fake $100 bills, and they've tried to pass them in the local businesses. So I don't know if that's something else that we could look at with when they come to shoot, that if there's any instance of this, like that's a fee or a fine that comes back to them.
You have to control their props.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good idea.
It needs to start somewhere and be addressed. I don't know how to address everybody and say, like, I don't have any other permits, but we don't have anything that prohibits this or
I don't think there's
controls
anything
it.
that prohibits us also from asking for anonymity. If they want to film here, we don't need a thank you in your credits. Don't list our name. That satisfies people from trying to find us. That don't want strangers coming to town. Of course, it hurts your business, because if they looked us up, they would see. It's a juggling act. What's good for business isn't always good for the residents. So
we're a tourist town. Yeah,
yep.
I welcome it with open arms.
Right.
All right.
Corey, can we talk about resort tax? Come on, Corey.
Any other
Probably
items for
their
unscheduled?
option.
Any other items for unscheduled for the November 14th?
IT needs to be back on there, obviously.
Yes.
I have IT and budget.
Yep.
IT and budget review.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's adopted, I will be able to give you the actuals and where they're at without it being all starred and weird. And then
Actuals to date, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the revenue
Did
side.
we need to discuss department versus contract?
I'm getting the information to Ed so that he can give us a legal opinion. Ed Guza, the town attorney.
I have
Um,
a feeling he's going to say it's up to us,
and then from there.
but it's okay.
All right.
I would imagine.
So those are the items for unscheduled that will be on the next is the filming, budget review.
So I'm curious, is that going to involve like the library as well as far as IT? Are we seeking an all encompassing?
I think we'd have to negotiate with that, but in Karen's budget was the DIS services.
And several meetings ago, a couple of commissioners asked, I believe, for some follow-up on the last year's audit. I think it was you who asked to talk to the audit people or?
The auditors and they always provide time for an exit interview when they go.
Yeah, it's one of our duties is to
Have you gotten a new company lined up yet?
get.
No, I have two that one has sent an initial back in. So I'm making sure that it meets our not just the audit itself, but the GASB's. And so there's actually, wait for it. Ed knows that some of them are coming. So Department of Commerce contract, we will have two contracts for the Department of Commerce. One for the SLIPA funds, which is for water meters from HB 355. All of the information is into them. Department of Commerce draws up the contract, then electronically sends it to the attorney for DocuSign, and then it comes to you for review. Second Department of Commerce is the 819 for the growth policy. The planning board is in full swing with the request for proposal. I have been in contact with 3 engineering companies currently asking for clarifications, this, that, and the other on what they want to be seen in there. So we'll have that second contract, and it's in the same format where it goes to Ed for a DocuSign and then to you. The third contract right now, Great West is preparing for the architectural plans for the well site and for the tank, as those are the ARPA funds, and ARPA funds must be designated by December of 2024, or else you must give them back. And I do not want to give back our infrastructure money. So
They just
those
need to be designated, not spent.
correct, designated. So I think that's how that goes. And those are the 3, and then hopefully I'll have the audit as well. Auditor's contract, or 2 for you to review. I wanted to present you with multiples. Okay.
I just have one quick question because it was just brought up, but there's 2 budgets in the packet. Which one did y'all approve?
There's a
There's one with DIS.
supporting information.
No. Which budget was approved? Because there's 2 in the packet.
There were 2, one with DIS and one without, and where you.
So which budget was approved?
I do not see how you can adopt the one with DIS.
Yeah.
Because we haven't accepted a contract. So it would be the general one dated 10/24. Guess we need to specify that.
I thought we were talking about the one not with the EIS
Correct.
contract.
Correct. Because we don't have a contract with NIS. We can't
Correct.
approve a budget without a contract there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a sheriff's department with no contract, a school with no contract, auditors with no contracts.
The auditor, the annual audit is called for in the town code.
But you don't have a contract from the company, so you don't have an amount. So that's another thing that you
So we
guys
have
don't.
an estimated amount. based on prior years. That's how budgets work.
But if that's not who you're going to go with, because
We
that was
didn't-
They're
that was the
consistent
We did
across
not
the,
identify a specific auditor in the budget. It's a one-line item that just says audit. I've been looking at it all day.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about the non-EI or.
that's what I'm sure I should have clarified, but assumed because we need to do the clarification on
Yeah.
process.
I think we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Mine has nothing to do with that. I'm Stacy Rodriguez. I just wanted to see about how we can go about getting the park redone on Armitage and Comley.
The
It's
Conley,
very-
so currently, and we are all out of order, but anyway, at the very least in this current budget, there is removal of the bark in the playground and weed mitigation. You can't spray for it because it's proximity to the well site. Past that, there are no upgrade plans to the park and nothing in the budget. Yes, Thistle Park. Last item.
What, which, I'm sorry.
Last item.
Oh. Adjourn? Do you need a motion for that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll move to adjourn. This is John Wade for the record.
My second.
All right.
Aye.
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 And I don't think because that if you were typically remote in Ennis on Monday and Tuesdays. But your next 2 Mondays are, but I mean, I wouldn't be able to sit down. This class is amazing, PS, but it's a beast right now. I'm doing their online class.
Mhm.
And so you have.
That's through Montana State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
I just wanted to say that these are all in the judges.
I forgot about those.
So, yeah, you can go, you can get in there, so.
So I am. Let me grab a flat calendar.
Just look at like the long branch. I looked over there. Good to see you. Hope Bailey is.
That wouldn't hurt my feelings.
sitting here. It's like, is that the voices in my head talking or is that? It's overwhelming. It's pretty loud though. It's not doing way out. Yeah, I like this. This is. Yeah.
First intro to Jim Bob when we were